Larson is a gifted actress and seems to be considered by many Hollywood elite as the sweetest of sweethearts, but there always seems to be one person who hates the sweet things in life. Welcome to Beyond the Screen, I'm Maddie, and these are the top 10 celebrities who refuse to work with Brie Larson. Let me hear your thoughts on Brie in the comments below. At number 10, Jonah Hill. Jonah was a comedy giant before making his move to the more dramatic side of acting, returning to those comedy roots in 2012 when he starred alongside Channing Tatum in a film reboot of the TV series 21 Jump Street. Joining them in the cast was Dave Franco, Nick Offerman, Ice Cube, and of course Brie Larson as Hill and Franco's love interest. The movie itself is hilarious, with Hill and Tatum delivering performances that have yet to be matched. Larson, however, is actually one of the duller characters of the flick. Her character is a part of a high school crew of climate activists and substance dealers. Despite being surrounded by comedic talent in basically every scene, Larson was stiff throughout the majority of the flick. Jonah Hill has commented in the past that he found it difficult to play off of Brie while filming scenes together. Instead of being excited about the project when speaking on the red carpet, Jonah seemed more interested in just getting to his seat. Since then, Hill and Larson have never appeared in another project together. In fact, despite the first film ending with the two becoming a couple, Brie's character was written out of the sequel and replaced. At number 9, Aubrey Plaza. Aubrey and Brie worked together on a movie from 2010 called Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, based on the manga of the same name. Larson and Plaza were only on screen together for a handful of scenes, as Brie's character doesn't really come into play until Scott reaches Ramona's third evil ex-boyfriend, with Brie acting as Scott's ex, Envy Adams. The reason these two actresses weren't featured in a ton of scenes together was actually because their chemistry together was insane. These two would regularly break in the middle of a take and tended to spend a lot of time together off screen. Aubrey and Brie have been rising in the ranks of Hollywood following Scott Pilgrim. Plaza was cast in the mockumentary series Parks and Recreation, while Larson was being offered roles in more serious flicks. They have never worked together again in person, but their voices will be featured side by side in the Netflix animated series reboot of Scott Pilgrim, where they will be reprising their same roles. At number 8, Jacob Tremblay. Ever since Jacob Tremblay first appeared in the film Room alongside Brie Larson, he has been one of the busiest kids in Hollywood. The young actor has starred in several projects, from Disney movies like Luca to horror flicks like Before I Wake. Starring alongside Larson, however, was his first real acting gig, working very close with the actress for months on end. The film stars Brie and Jacob as mother and son held captive in a room for 5 years, with Jacob's character not knowing what the outside world looks like. The film is heart-wrenching and deserved every single award it received, but unfortunately for young Jacob, his time on set left him with a strange feeling towards his on-screen mother. Jacob has nothing but lovely things to say about his time on set and with Brie, but over the months of filming, they became extremely close, to the point where he called Brie mom a few times during interviews for the project. He has never exclusively said that he will never work with Larson again, but if you accidentally called someone mom more than once, would you want to work with them again? At number 7, Scarlett Johansson. The Ellen DeGeneres show was not just a toxic work environment, it was also an awkward talking environment. While promoting the Avengers Endgame in 2019, Brie and Scarlett appeared on the daytime talk show together to share some behind-the-scenes stories and dish with DeGeneres about their past. The first question Ellen asked is, "How did you two meet?" To which Larson responds with, "Dinner on New Year's Eve." Well, nope, that wasn't it. Johansson was jokingly furious and asked Larson if she really didn't know. She then had to remind Brie that they had previously worked together on the film Don John with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Larson was so embarrassed and almost threw herself right off the couch. The reason it wasn't the first thing she thought of was because Larson acted as a glorified extra on set, according to herself, while Johansson was the Scarlett Johansson. The moment is played off as playful, and the interview ends up getting back on track, but that has to be one of the most uncomfortable ways to start an interview ever. At number 6, Chris Hemsworth. Brie and Chris have only starred in one movie side by side in one scene, but despite that, they were still made to do a press tour together to promote the final Avengers film, Endgame, in 2019. While making an appearance on Entertainment Tonight, the actors were asked if there was ever some kind of behind-the-scenes competition between the men and the women of the cast. Larson said there was no boys versus girls mentality because she is the strongest Avenger, to which Hemsworth disagreed. Chris made the argument that he is the strongest while questioning Larson's confidence in the matter. This interview wasn't the first time these two had a spat on tour either. Several interviews between the two were fueled with sarcasm and snappy remarks, which caused many to speculate that there may have been some tension behind the scenes. Chris basically confirms this every time she's brought up in interviews. While it sometimes feels like he sees her as a little sister in his life, other times she appears to be that annoying friend that you just can't stand for what feels like no reason. While both will be a part of the MCU for a long time to come, the chances of them ever getting written into a script together is highly unlikely. At At number 5, Amy Schumer. The film Trainwreck is one of those comedy movies that's not exclusively funny or dramatic, it's somewhere else. It's an okay movie featuring decent performances from everyone involved, including LeBron James, who almost steals the show from Schumer several times. Larson plays Schumer's sister Kim, and in the film, they were raised by a father who told them that monogamy isn't real after their mother leaves him. Larson and Schumer spent a lot of time together on set, as they again played sisters on screen. Schumer had a small tinge of frustration held back at all times. While she was certainly famous in her own right, having multiple comedy specials and a TV show, Brie was a rising star, being cast in Oscar-nominated movies. Brie did steal every scene she's in with Amy, but that's not saying much considering everyone almost steals the show a few times. Since the release of the film, their careers have gone in very different directions. Amy still stars in comedy films to this day, but she's also taken her talent to the dramatic side of acting, and while most films do well with critics, fan reviews have been abysmal. Where Brie Larson has starred in several projects like The Room, for which she won an Oscar for Best Actress in a leading role, as well as becoming a literal superhero with Captain Marvel. Amy seems to be a little annoyed at that fact, as she has yet to cast Brie in any of her projects and vice versa. At number 4, Michael Cera. Michael portrayed the title character Scott in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World in 2010, while Brie Larson played his evil ex, Envy Adams. Cera and Larson only spent a few days working on set together, but it was enough time for a young Michael to develop a little crush on Brie. She may have been cast to play his evil ex on screen, but behind the scenes they got along swimmingly. While Mary Elizabeth Winstead was cast to play his main love interest, their off-screen chemistry was just not as strong as it was with Larson. Unfortunately for Cera, the feelings of romance were not reciprocated, and he had actually been existing in the friend zone, a zone that Michael ended up being happy to live in. Following the shoot, the two kept in close contact and reportedly became very close friends, with Cera eventually meeting his current wife Nadine and Brie dating a man named Alex Greenwald until 2019. Despite smoothing things over and becoming close friends, Cera has yet to work with Larson on any projects apart from the upcoming Scott Pilgrim Netflix series. At number 3, Tom Hiddleston. You may have forgotten that Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston starred in a movie together because the movie they were in was not so good. Tom and Brie starred in Kong Skull Island, which was visually striking, but in terms of its human cast, there was something left to be desired. Hiddleston acted as the main human character of the piece, with the film centering around the actor and his crew of scientists, explorers, and soldiers traveling to the mysterious and uncharted Skull Island, where they meet monsters galore, including one of the original massive movie monsters, King Kong. Now, the reason the film didn't turn out so well was apparently due to the behind-the-scenes drama. This was a movie that saw the studio get heavily involved. Tends to happen when someone's trying to develop a franchise, never usually works out. As the shoot went by, things were changed constantly, from lines to CGI to full scenes being rewritten to better suit the studio. The entire cast was frustrated at the situation, creating a very gloomy and sour vibe on set. Hiddleston currently stars as Loki in the MCU, where Larson also exists as Captain Marvel. According to Disney insiders, Tom has made comments about the chances of their characters meeting together on screen, with him apparently saying if it's anything like Kong, it will be a nightmare. While not an outright refusal, it seems that Tom will do everything in his power to stop that from happening. At number 2, Mark Wahlberg. The actor is no stranger to difficult shoots. The man behind films like Father Stu and Patriots Day has been in so many movies over the years that he's drafted his very own list of celebrities he refuses to work with. Somewhere in his top 5 is Brie Larson, who worked on the 2014 film The Gambler alongside Wahlberg and John Goodman, acting as the love interest to Mark's character. Having to spend so much time together on set caused the two to become very close, but not friendly. At first, things seemed to be fine, but as the production went on, Wahlberg reportedly became annoyed with Larson's performance. She's certainly not the worst thing about this movie, but according to Mark behind the scenes, she was fumbling lines a lot, which caused him to lose his focus, something the actor does not like to do. Ever since the release of the film, Wahlberg prefers not to talk about his co-star and opts instead to only talk about John Goodman. And at number 1, Zach Galifianakis. Larson and Galifianakis have only sat together in the same room one time during an episode of his series Between Two Ferns in 2019. The parody talk show is literally designed to produce some of the most uncomfortable interviews of all time, with the celebrity usually being in on the joke. Larson's appearance on Between Two Ferns was another fun addition to the series, with the actress doing everything she could to keep a straight face. While the interview seemed a bit uncomfortable for comedy's sake, according to Galifianakis, that also translated behind the scenes. Larson admitted to having a fun time on the set, but she's also admitted to being an introvert in the past. According to Zach, in between A and B, she would not speak to anyone other than her team. Galifianakis' greatest strength is of course the comedy genre, so it was especially frustrating for him not to be getting a super exciting performance from her both during during and after the interview. Larson is a good sport and tends to do interviews that make her a little uncomfortable in order to cross it off her list, like playing VR games with Jimmy Fallon or doing Hot Ones in 2021. While Zach has never come out on camera and said, "I refuse to work with Brie Larson," these two haven't collaborated together on any other projects. When asked about the interview, both are quick to say it was a little weird but also a little fun. Those are the top 10 celebrities who refuse to work with Brie Larson. Are you a fan of Brie Larson? Let us know by leaving a comment on this video. Thanks for stopping beyond the screen. Leave us a like and we'll see you next time.